The city of Escondido sides with President Trump. Reaction from last night's heated debate over California's sanctuary laws. Plus, KPBS talks with Sheriff Bill Gore about the department's handling of a wrongful death case that ended in a multi-million-dollar judgment.
It's like, whoa, why are you living in your car? What would put you in that place?
From earning an MBA to living in a car, why this local Uber driver says his story is all too common in California.
Most of us live on sea coasts, and most of us will be affected by this.
And Bill Nye talks about climate change, the importance of STEM education, and the documentary on his career as the science guy. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Escondido is now the first city in San Diego County to support President Donald Trump's lawsuit against California's sanctuary law. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has some of the heated debate during the city council vote.
Governor Brown, I promised you a year ago to sue the state if you sign SB 54 into law.
Escondido Mayor Sam Abed does not support SB 54, also called the California Values Act.
Nothing but BS name for this because it has nothing of value to the people of Escondido.
That was a year ago when the city council voted 4-1 expressing opposition to the bill. Wednesday night, that same council voted to support the Trump administration's lawsuit against California.
4 yes votes.
Councilwoman Olga Diaz was the lone no, at one point accusing Mayor Abed of not fully understanding the bill.
Excuse me, I read everything and don't.
And you, I did not interrupt you.
Are incorrect.
I did not interrupt you.
And that wasn't the only interruption. During the hearing, people were given just 2 minutes to speak.
Stop the clock. Stop the clock. I want my time back.
Okay.
I want my time back.
I'll give
Stop
you 10
the
seconds.
clock.
Go ahead.
Throughout the meeting, there were multiple outbursts from people for and against the resolution.
I will send the police to take you out of the council chamber if you continue to do that. Anyone, respect other speakers.
Abed and others say before SB 54, Escondido police worked closely with immigration and customs enforcement, deporting only dangerous criminals.
Not illegals who are here working hard, trying to work through the process and contributing to our society, because they're valuable.
But Abed says now that ICE relationship is gone and immigrants in Escondido will suffer.
The transit station sweeps a few weeks ago was a good example of the impact of SB 54 on Escondido. They arrested and deported 115 illegal immigrants.
If SB 54 wasn't here, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Councilwoman Diaz says that ICE relationship was never official.
There was no contract. There was no parameters of what they did. We had no ability to influence what they were working on. We didn't even know what they were working on.
There was a planned protest outside City Hall earlier Wednesday. Halfway through, it turned into a shouting match between people for and against the resolution. Diaz plans to hold a forum soon where people in Escondido can speak on the topic for more than just 2 minutes. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A judgment in a wrongful death suit could have the San Diego County Sheriff's Department re-examining evidence in what they say was a suicide. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman has the story.
$5 million. That's how much Adam Shacknai is ordered to pay the Zahau family after jurors found him responsible for the death of his brother's girlfriend, Rebecca Zahau. While his attorney pushes for an appeal, Shacknai still maintains his innocence.
It's very gratifying to know that I've never come across one who thought for a second that I had anything to do with it. And yeah, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother anybody else because they know me and they see me for what I am.
In 2011, Rebecca Zahau was found naked, tied up, and hanging from the balcony of this Coronado home. Though a jury says Shacknai is responsible for her death, San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore is still defending his department's ruling of suicide as the cause.
We looked at this to start off with as a possible murder case. We didn't start off saying, well, this is suicide, and then gather information and facts to prove that it was a suicide. We kept an open mind until the last piece of evidence, forensic evidence, was examined.
Sheriff Gore says there is a lower threshold of proof in civil court. He says the evidence presented in that case was no different than what was presented in his investigation, but he'd be willing to look at new evidence. The Zahau family says they want to see this case reopened.
This isn't about money. It's about getting the sheriff's department to open this up, do their job.
Is it possible investigators missed something?
You can't see fingerprints, you can't see DNA. How would you wipe a crime scene, all the ropes, the other devices in the bedroom where we think, that she put herself over the balcony? How could you wipe away all that, but just leave the victim's fingerprints and DNA? I think it would be difficult, to say the least.
But not impossible.
Nothing's impossible.
Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
San Diego Unified teachers are holding town halls Friday and Monday to call attention to the district's falling enrollment and resulting budget crunch. Like many districts in the state, San Diego Unified is losing students due to a falling birth rate and competition from charter schools. A kindergarten teacher at Baker Elementary says the issue weighed heavily on contract negotiations that ended this week.
About 1,000 students leave our school district on an annual basis, and that declining enrollment really hurts San Diego Unified.
A deal struck Wednesday would give teachers a 2% raise next school year. The teachers' union still needs to vote for the proposed contract. A network of bike lanes in downtown San Diego will not be built by the timeline promised by Mayor Kevin Faulconer. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
Faulconer had promised to build 9 miles of protected bike lanes stretching from Little Italy to the East Village by the summer of next year, but he never fully funded the project. Wednesday night, a mayoral staffer told the city's Bike Advisory Board the downtown mobility plan would be built in phases. He would not commit to a timeline or discuss when or how the bike network would be funded. Board member Kathy Keehan says that's discouraging.
I think that this is such an important project that we need to do it as quickly as possible. So we need to make progress, though. If this is the way that it takes to move forward, then let's move forward and get those improvements on the ground as quickly as we can.
The number of people biking downtown has surged in recent months as bike sharing companies have made cycling more accessible. Safe Street advocates say many of the new cyclists are likely inexperienced and that without protected bike lanes, the chances of cyclists getting seriously injured or killed will increase. Mayor Faulconer is releasing his budget next week. Advocates and city council members have asked him to prioritize bike and pedestrian safety projects. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Next week marks 50 years since the landmark Fair Housing Act was signed. The anniversary will be noted with a conference here in San Diego. KPBS's Taryn Minto reports advocates say housing discrimination remains a problem.
President Johnson enters the East Room of the White House, where he will sign the new Civil Rights Bill.
That bill, the 1968 Fair Housing Act, is considered a watershed moment in the fight for equality.
An historic occasion in the White House East Room.
Yet San Diego Housing Federation's Stephen Russell says the act hasn't solved everything.
In fact, I spoke to a lawyer. I was really amused because he looked at the world through a lawyer's eyes, and he said, well, fair housing, didn't we fix that in 1968? We passed the law. And the answer is no. It created standards that we have yet to fully adhere to. We didn't even create an enforcement mechanism under fair housing until 20 years after the act was passed. And quite frankly, under the current federal government, we're rolling back the ambitions of the measure altogether.
For example, the Trump administration delayed a rule requiring local taxpayer-funded agencies to submit a plan to address fair housing issues. Russell and other advocates will discuss fair housing challenges at the annual conference in San Diego. Taryn Minto, KPBS News.
In March, the California Dream Project aired a story about the state's shrinking middle class. The piece ended with a quote from an urbanist who worried about another trend: college-educated people relegated to working at Starbucks or driving Ubers and barely surviving. As part of our statewide collaboration covering the California Dream, KPBS's Amita Sharma spent a day with the man who lived in his car for a month despite having an MBA.
Sandwiched between the Pacific Ocean and California's iconic Highway 101 is a parking lot in Encinitas where Chad Bordis' car doubles as his home. It's 3:30 a.m. The rain is pounding down amid a furious wind, and Bordis has awakened. He emerges from the front passenger seat of his gray Nissan Altima and walks to his trunk, which is also his closet. The newness of the day has him bleary-eyed.
You know, you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm in my car.
That's been his reality for a month, and it's light years away from what he imagined. He's 46 with an MBA from the University of Phoenix. He uses the day's early moments to vanquish despair.
You know, one of the things I think of is hopefully that some of the jobs that I've applied for, you know, start calling me back, or, you know, that I get some feedback on my resume or something along those lines.
Until then, Bordis drives Uber and Lyft and works a third part-time job selling cars online.
All right, another day in paradise.
By 3:45 a.m., he's off to work.
Got to fill up for the day.
First, he stops for gas, and then he checks Uber and Lyft ride requests for longer trips.
You know, I'm looking for the longer rides, the 45-minute plus, just because I like to do 2 of those in the morning, because it kind of starts me off with a, you know, about $70 or $80 in the morning right off the bat.
At 4:30 a.m., he gets a hit.
I just got a ping. It looks like a 45-minute plus.
He's off to pick up a couple in the northern tip of San Diego County to take them to the airport. He makes $40. Afterwards, Bordis heads to a gym where he showers and changes. By 7:30 a.m., he's out the door to start his next job selling cars online, but he's already tired.
It's very, very exhausting. There are times during the day when, you know, I'll just turn the apps off if I'm not working at my other job, and I'll just, you know, try to catch a 15-minute nap.
That shift ends at 3 p.m., and it's back to driving for Uber and Lyft.
I just want to make it comfortable for them.
Bordis leaves room in his trunk for his passengers' luggage, hiding his own belongings, clothes, dirty laundry, laptop, pillow, and blanket tucked underneath a black towel.
Just so it doesn't look so obvious.
He doesn't want them to know about his living situation, but occasionally the truth slips out. Their reaction is uniform.
It's shock, it's disbelief. It's like, whoa, you know, why are you living in your car? What would put you in that place?
Until the end of February, Bordis rented a room in a home for $750 a month. But after the owner decided to sell his house, Bordis' income of between $2,000 and $2,400 a month was insufficient to get him an apartment. It's also not enough to pay down his nearly $100,000 student loan debt on his MBA. So in March, he started living in his car. He says he sneaks in time during the day to search for sales and marketing jobs. But so far, no bites. He speculates either because he's not using key words that a company would respond to, or there just aren't enough middle-income jobs, or he's overqualified. He says he feels emotionally ragged.
There's times that I just get really emotional and I start crying. I get really sad, and, you know, I mean, one of the things I think about is like, oh yeah, my parents would be real proud of me, you know, like 46, living in his car, and, you know, my parents had bigger dreams. My dad never went to college, neither. My mom didn't go to college either.
He says he recharges by thinking about people who clawed their way out of worse circumstances and rose to great heights, people like businessmen Chris Gardner and Steve Jobs. And there is fire in his eyes when I ask him what he would say to California's politicians.
How do we get here? You know, how do we get to a point where we devalue human life? You know, to where, you know, it's okay if we step over homeless people, or, you know, if you're sleeping in your car, it doesn't matter. You know, life's tough, get over it. You know, why aren't there more houses being built for lower income families? And what are they doing about, you know, the job? Like, what kind of job creation are they doing here? So what are we doing to bring more jobs in?
After another 2-hour driving shift at 8:30 p.m., Bordis prepares to spend another night in his car. His fatigue has left him cynical about how the state's politicians might answer his list of questions.
They don't care. Honestly, they just don't care.
Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
So, Amitha, Chad Bordas is certainly in an unfortunate predicament. For his position, is this an example of the need for more affordable housing here in California, or an example of just how much student loans are weighing down recent graduates?
So I would say that it is an example of both. Chad Bordas is a well-educated guy with an MBA who is still having a tough time finding a middle-income job that will allow him to both rent his own apartment and make that $1,300 monthly payment to pay down his student debt. So he is having to piece together a living by working multiple jobs, which still do not allow him or enable him to cover his cost of living.
And any indication that this is not isolated? Are there significant numbers of educated Californians still struggling to make ends meet?
So here's what we know. We know that last year there were 134,000 homeless people in the state of California. We know that that was a 14% increase over the last year. I checked with the California Department of Housing and Development to find out how many of those people are working full-time and or are living in their cars, but they don't track those statistics. I was told that it would be safe to say that some of these people are working full-time, some of these people are living in their cars.
And something has recently changed for Bordas. Can you tell us about that?
Right. So he has found a place to live. He is now renting a room in a home in Vista for $450 a month.
That's great news for him. Amitha Sharma, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This story is part of our statewide California Dream collaboration. For more, head to kpbs.org/CA Dream.
I'm John Yang. Tonight on the NewsHour, Judy Woodruff talks to Sheryl Sandberg about the questions surrounding Facebook and data privacy. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A strong earthquake was felt across much of the LA area this afternoon. The U.S. Geological Survey measured the quake as a magnitude 5.3. It happened just before 12:30 in the Channel Islands region. There are no reports of any damage, but shaking was felt along the coast and inland. We still expect a chance of rain this weekend as a storm system hitting Northern California moves south. Regina Miller has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, taking a look across Southern California right now, we do have pretty quiet conditions. Tonight, we will have the clouds starting to fill in again with an overnight low of 58 degrees in the metro areas. Into Oceanside, we're at 54. Borrego Springs, 65 for tonight. And Mount Laguna is at 46 degrees. Looking farther to the north, around San Francisco and on northward, we are dealing with rain there. Some clouds starting to advance down towards Los Angeles. And as we go into tonight and tomorrow, we're going to see the heaviest rain, obviously, in places like Sacramento, San Francisco on northward, but we are going to start to see some showers starting to expand farther southward for tomorrow. Not into San Diego County, though. We will have morning clouds giving way to some sunshine. In San Diego, we're at 67 degrees. Oceanside, 66, 92 in Borrego Springs. And we are going to have a wind advisory in effect, and that's from Friday afternoon to early Sunday morning. In the afternoon and evening, gusts are going to be to 50 miles per hour, especially along the mountain crest and the desert slopes. So here's a look at your 5-day forecast for Friday here along the coast. Decreasing clouds through the afternoon, 66. Then we're going to see a chance of a shower on Saturday as that front moves a little closer. Sunday, 69 degrees and partly sunny skies. For Friday, we have decreasing clouds in inland locations as well. A temperature of 73 degrees. For Saturday, there could be a shower around, and 72, 76 with some sun and pleasant for Sunday, 83 by Monday. In the mountain areas, partly sunny and breezy for Friday, and then a shower in places for Saturday with a temperature of 64 degrees, 66 as we head into your Sunday, 70 degrees by Monday. In the desert areas, warm with clouds and some sun, 92 degrees on Friday, 90 with increasing clouds on Saturday, sunny and warm on Sunday. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News. Back to you, Ebony.
San Diego University recognizes a Hollywood actor for his off-camera humanitarian efforts.
The Whitaker Peace and Development Initiative works with young men and women
to develop their skills as leaders, as peace builders, and community builders.
Forrest Whitaker is best known for his movie roles, such as his supporting role in this year's blockbuster Black Panther, or his Oscar award-winning role in The Last King of Scotland. Tonight, the University of San Diego will award Whitaker with its Medal of Peace. It recognizes his work with the Whitaker Peace and Development Initiative, which campaigns to foster peace in fragile communities throughout the world. Just a couple of months ago, TV personality Bill Nye helped dedicate the new Data Science Institute at UCSD. Now, the science guy is telling his story in a new documentary. Maddie Orton from SciTech Now talked with Nye and one of the film's directors.
This new documentary focuses a lot on who you are as a person and also what you're focusing on right now. What made you want to do the documentary?
Well, my agent, Nick, thought this would be cool because he was interested in it because, like Jason and David and Kate, he grew up watching the Science Guy show.
Mm-hmm. You know, David and I grew up watching the show, and, you know, in no small part, it was a huge influence on our decision to become science documentary filmmakers. You know, the show was so interesting. It had this weird language. It was like Pee-wee's Playhouse, but educational. And so, yeah, it seemed like the right topic, and it was the right time because Bill had just done the debate in Kentucky.
You mentioned the Kentucky debate. Let's talk about that a little bit. Much of the film focuses on your speaking with I guess, skeptics of evolution and skeptics of climate change. What brought you to do the debate at the Creationism Museum?
Well, the guy wrote to me, and I didn't really know who he was, I admit. And I know that Bill Maher had exposed him a little bit in his movie. And I still think this is a good opportunity to show the world how this entity, these creationists, and you use the word skeptics, they're deniers. They're deniers of science. I mean, I'm a big skeptic. I'm a big critical thinking proponent, rationality, reason, and all that. But these are people that ignore the overwhelming scientific evidence. And I believed, and I still believe, that by putting it on the internet, people would see what these guys are up to. And I hope not enable them to use tax dollars to miseducate kids.
What are your concerns as far as children in science education, as far as this is concerned?
The biggest problem facing humankind is climate change. I say all the time, when I was a kid, there were 3 billion people in the world. But now there's 7.4 billion people in the world. In fact, when we were making the movie, there were 7.3 billion people. Now there's 7.4. And so this enormous number of people trying to breathe and burn the Earth's atmosphere is causing the Earth's climate to change very fast. Most of us live on sea coasts, and most of us will be affected by this.
You visited Greenland to look into the science and the research behind climate change studies. Tell me a little bit about how they are really looking into that.
For years, I've been using ice cores, pictures from the ice core lab, pictures academic colleagues would send me, the famous hockey stick graph in my lectures. But I had never been to the land of ice cores. But Jason and David and Kate somehow schmoozed somebody somewhere, and we went to Greenland and saw the evidence with our own eyes.
What gives you hope about science education now?
Oh, I think things are changing. I think I should take full credit.
It's all you.
Yeah, no, just that. Here's the example that I'm so fond of: The Big Bang Theory, and now a spin-off show, Sheldon, Young Sheldon. Big Bang Theory was the most popular show on television, not the most popular sitcom, the most popular show. And it celebrates these nerdy people interacting, who are scientists and engineers interacting. And that right there is evidence that things are changing. Then, if I said to you STEM, you know exactly what that means, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Sure.
And because it's just this acronym is just around all the time, STEM, 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 and that's good. I think things are changing.
one of the particularly cool things about the film, I think, for people who are science lovers, is it's not just Bill Nye the Science Guy, but you also have clips of Carl Sagan, and you have a moment of you interacting with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Well, Neil's a good friend, man. I spent a lot of time with Neil.
I think it must be so cool, especially you're a science lover, science documentary, and what was that like?
It was really exciting because, you know, Bill doesn't exist in a vacuum. As we did the research, we realized that you know, his mentor, who's his old college professor, Carl Sagan, influenced both Bill and Neil. And you know, getting into that history felt really pertinent to what Bill's currently doing, which is hopefully inspiring a new generation to love science the way that he learned to love science from Carl Sagan.
It's just an exciting time. You know, when you're in love, you want to tell the world, as we say.
What are your hopes for the documentary?
Well, that it saves the world. Yeah.
No big thing.
Yeah. That people watch it, realize climate change is a big problem, decide to produce all the electricity in the world renewably and make it reliable, have clean water for everyone on Earth and access to the internet for everyone on Earth, so we raise the standard of living of women and girls, and manage the Earth's environment globally, and have the human population manageably reduce over the next century and a half for a better quality of life for everyone. Let's go.
We'll have to get on that.
Yeah, the film was, what, 1 hour and 10 minutes?
Yeah,
that should be enough.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Bill, Jason, thank you for being here.
Maddie.
Appreciate it.
Excellent.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.